Trying to get the chat popped out here, but
all right, we're live.
Okay, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
I'm
Good.
I'm here with my buddy Adam of the Adam and Sid Show, or Sitch and Adam, depending on who you ask.
Exactly right.
How you doing today?
Good. How are you, man? It's good to talk to you.
I have the live stream open. Oh no. Okay.
Well, yeah. I was making sure I was trying to close mine up.
Did you have a good New Year's?
I did, yeah, of course. Of course, a brand new year. And this is the year that you and I, political junkies, wait for, right?
The election year of all years, of course.
It is.
Because the last one was so good, 2020 was great.
Oh my God. I mean, it was eventful, wasn't it?
It was. No one can deny that. Yeah, did you have a good Christmas?
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah. Great holidays.
Oh, yeah, I love the holidays.
Yes.
The Christmas season, Adam. I guess I should start with the story of how I first of all, let's just celebrate that we don't have that fucking dead weight asshole Sitch here.
Oh my God, no. That's hilarious. I was like, he was so sad that he wasn't invited along. I had to tell him, look, you better invite him to do a stream with you. So
I will. I love Sitch. I'm joking about that, obviously.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, I want to find a topic that I would like to talk about with him specifically, though.
Right. So, yeah.
And then I'll have you both on. I'll come on to your show. A lot of people asked me last stream what happened to my appearance on your stream, and I was like, it got rescheduled. So.
Oh yes, yeah, because I was talking to people about it. Yes. Yeah. But it is coming up. I think we're like a week or two away.
I think it's like the 16th or something. I gotta check my calendar or whatever. Anyways, so why did I want to do a live stream with Adam?
Yeah, what's up? What's going on?
What was this, like 2 months ago, something like that? I can't remember. It was like, I think it was back in November. I started my day as most days start. I take a pee. Now, usually it's very routine, but today my pee was red. So it was like, holy fuck.
Really?
I'm a hypochondriac. And so I'm like,
that's not good.
I'm like, fuck, I have internal bleeding or something. My kidneys are going, fuck. And I go into work and I'm just not having a good day. Obviously, I think I'm sick. And I'm telling myself, like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Don't worry. Don't check WebMD. If you're a hypochondriac, WebMD is the worst thing you can do. You can have like a slight headache. And if you search it in WebMD, it'll be like, you're infected with flesh-eating bacteria. Like.
So true.
Hold on, we already got a super chat from Lucy Lemonbug.
Look at that.
Hi, Adam. Well, hi, Lucy. Thank you so much for the super chat. $20. That's very generous. Anyways, so yeah, I'm like going through the motions at work, just not present because I'm thinking, I'm like, my kidneys are going, I'm going to need to get on a transplant list. This is bad. And like, I go to take a pee again. I'm like, oh, please be.
Yeah, please be normal.
It's red again.
Oh my God, no.
And like, I'm like, I gotta know. So I check WebMD, and like, the first things that come up: kidney failure, internal bleeding, blah blah blah. And I'm just like, my boss is like, "You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then I go to I go to my workstation doing my stuff. And I'm like, and then I step outside, and I'm fucking crying because I think I'm gonna be dead. And like, he comes outside, he's like, dude, what's wrong? I'm like, dude, I was pissing blood, man. It's bad. It's really bad. He's like, all right, don't worry. We're going to get you to the emergency room or, urgent care, whatever. We're going to do it. Don't worry. I'm here with you. He's my boss is also a good friend of mine. So he's being very supportive. And we're driving. We get in his car and we're driving. And he calls a nurse he knows who happens to be on the same insurance that I am. And like, she's giving him the rundown, like, okay, go here. You're going to want to go to urgent care for this, blah, 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 blah. She goes, and she's like writing down what it could be. She goes, he didn't drink beets, did he?
Oh, no.
And I was like, I started taking beet powder yesterday. She goes, yeah, that'll make your piss red.
Oh, my God.
And so
why are you taking beet powder?
It was, I fell for one of those stupid Instagram ads. It's like, oh, it'll make everything great. No, it just gave me a major panic attack. Was incidentally.
It took years off your life and stress.
Exactly. And so he's like, I'm like, I get this wave of like embarrassment, but I'm relieved at the same time too. So I'm like, oh, thank God, I'm fine. She's like, yeah, you're fine. Don't worry. It'll go. And sure enough, like later that day, I took a piss and it was yellow. So like it should be. Anyways, he drives back to where we work at. And he's like, why don't we take the rest of the day off and get wasted? I was like, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And so we go back.
I mean, you are under contract, right?
Yeah, exactly. Who am I to say no to the boss? Anyways, so like we kind of justified it as like a work meeting day. And so we're like, he's got nice liquor and stuff. And I usually don't even drink liquor. I'm a beer guy. But like we're drinking that, we're discussing stuff. And then we start watching YouTube. And like we start watching those like, here's how to start a business, here's how to run your business. 90% of which are bullshit, 10% of which are just common sense. But when you're watching that, I don't know if you've ever watched that subgenre of YouTube.
Of course.
Yeah.
Look, it's fascinating.
Yeah. You're only one step removed from like Jordan Peterson when you're that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
So somehow we get onto a Jordan Peterson video and he mentions Jonathan Haidt. And I'm 3 sheets to the wind already. I'm like, I haven't talked to fucking Adam in forever. I just want to talk to me and him. Like, I'm like, yeah, it'll be fun. And then I text you. I'm like, hey, would you want to come on my channel? Just you and me. And you're like, sure. And then we go around, we go to my buddy's place, our other buddy's place. He rolls a joint, and I'm usually not the type to smoke, but I'm already drunk. So he's like, we're smoking it back and forth. And then we're chatting, and you called me. And I was like, wow, Adam called me. Wow. And I'm laying on the couch, and I could tell you like maybe 2 sentences of what I said, of what you said to me. Because it was one of those conversations where you just have to like pay extremely close attention to like actually know what's going on. And I remember you telling me that Cenk Uygur was coming on your show again. And like you would ask me these questions and I would go on these long incoherent rants. And then it ended with you hearing me getting into a car. And you probably thought that I was driving, but no.
Yeah, I asked you specifically. I was like, listen, Steve, this might not be the time to drive.
Hold on. Somebody wants to say hi.
Oh, look at this.
No,
look at this.
I can't pick this one up, otherwise I would. Anyways, so yeah, that's the long, stupid story of how this came.
Well, no, I did specifically say, Steve, like you're too drunk to drive. Like, let's make sure that you're not driving. You were like, no, my friend is driving. Everything is fine.
Yeah. So, anyways,
yes, look, I was amazed because look, I went back and started looking at our text messages, and our text messages literally go back like years.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. I mean, I think we were texting before Twitter DMs were even a thing.
Were we?
So,
okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, Cenk Uygur was coming on again. I had asked you about advice, what to say, but we became friends because we were both TYT fans. We were both watching TYT. Yeah.
So, yeah, we posted. So they did this thing back in the day. It was back like right after I graduated from college. It was 2011. Right. They had TYT Nation, which is now just a channel run by Jeff Waldorf, I believe. But he was the moderator. And they would allow fan videos. And I posted fan videos, and Adam posted fan videos. And that's how we came to know each other. So Adam and I go back a long time.
Yeah, no. We did a podcast for a while that we did very incorrectly.
Yeah. Like it was not good.
As podcasts are supposed to be, but we would do like relevant questions and we would just basically talk. But yeah, that's kind of how we cut our teeth in the talking realm, which is funny. Now look, we've had Cenk Uygur on the show 2 times now. And on the last stream, I was telling Sitch, I'm not sure we've had one conversation with Cenk Uygur because there's just like Cenk Uygur is kind of talks at you. There's very little back and forth. But we've had Anna on twice, and both times were interesting conversations where I really feel like we're having a meeting of the minds type thing.
Totally. I listened to all those conversations, and I definitely, Anna is definitely more of a conversationalist than Cenk is. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
But Cenk has his shtick, and he's going to come at you with it just 100 miles an hour. That's how he does. Yeah.
Anna listens to our show pretty regularly.
Okay. Well,
which is super interesting. And I don't know why Anna's not doing some sort of long form show. I don't know if you remember, but she did The Point back in the day, which was kind of that thing. But I mean, you don't need that big production value to do some sort of podcast. So
she used to do a podcast with Michael Brooks very briefly.
Oh,
Until
really?
obviously he died.
Yeah.
It was for Jacobin, and they would interview guests and talk about lefty stuff. And then
Right.
after he died, it kind of went by the wayside. So, which is understandable. But
Yeah.
so I got a $5 super chat from Toph. Hope I'm not being a question spammer, not at all. But what movies would you consider, or excuse me, but what would you consider to be your favorite unintentionally based movies?
Unintentionally based movies.
The Dark Knight Rises kind of comes to mind because that was subversively right wing, but I wouldn't, it's first of all, it's not the greatest movie. Excuse me. It's also not like I agree with like the message of like anarchy's bad. But so I guess that would be my answer. But I'd have to think about that for longer.
Yeah, me too. I don't does based mean right wing? I say based all the time,
No,
but I don't mean it as right wing.
no.
But maybe that's the way people take it.
Oh, here's my answer. It's my favorite movie, Ghostbusters. It's about how the government is a pain in the ass.
Oh,
Ghost,
yes.
yeah,
Yes. A major libertarian vibe.
yeah.
The
Because
government is literally the bad guy.
yeah, people have pointed out that like the bad guy isn't the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man or Slimer or anything like that. Zool, I guess, kind of, but no, the EPA is the bad guy. When was the last time there was like a screed against a government regulatory agency in a movie? Not one that I can think of. $2 super chat from Darius Thurman. I love you, Scuba Steve. I love you too, Darius. And then a $2 super chat.
That's always good.
Drew the Dog Man. A-Team reigns supreme. You saw in my video I said I was A-Team, right?
I didn't, but I just assumed
Okay.
you were A-Team, obviously. I mean,
Gotta be A-Team.
Was that your democracy video?
No, that was a video a
Okay.
while back.
Okay.
I can't even remember at this point. I don't even make that many videos, but I can't remember.
I do watch your videos regularly, and look, I've got the bell rung and all that good stuff. So
Appreciate it.
yeah.
So $4.99 super chat from Rockaro.
Don't trust Adam.
He believes Barbie is woke and children voting and mommy milker theory. Okay, well, I got a few questions about what is it? Paternal voting or something like that? Like
It
you
is
get to vote for your
custodial
children?
voting.
Custodial voting. Okay, what is that?
So custodial voting is the idea that children are counted for representation in the House of Representatives, but their political voice is not really expressed. And to remedy that, we would give their voting rights to their parents until they are 18 years old and can vote on their own. So
interesting.
Yeah. So the parents would express the interests of the children in the same way that they express the interests of the children now in society, right? They pick what schools they go to. They feed and clothe them. They're basically their mentor in life. So
sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what is the
so look, if there's single people voting in a school district and parents are voting in a school district, the single people just far outnumber the voting rights of the parents because the children aren't being expressed, even though they're being counted in census data and they're being counted for funding and all that kind of stuff. But their political interests are just not being expressed. And I kind of got the idea because in society, the people that don't vote tend to gather all the costly externalities of society. Like I would make an argument the reason why young people have gotten screwed on student loan debt and bankruptcy, that's a very specific carve out that was thrust upon the kids that have student loans. It's because young people don't vote, so they're not really an interest group that people are concerned about. So they're like, just they can pay their loans back. The homeowners, the business owners, they vote. The workers, they vote. They can discharge their debt in bankruptcy.
I mean, there's also an argument like you can't really so bankruptcy, you either reschedule your payments or you give up your assets, as I understand.
Okay.
You can't could you give up your degree? I mean, do you think that'd be a reasonable?
Oh, that's
trade?
interesting. That's interesting.
You lose your credential if you file for bankruptcy on student loans.
Yeah, that would be that. I guess that would be. Yeah, I mean that would be an incentive not to file bankruptcy, but I don't know. I think it should be on the institutions that give out these degrees that lead people into bankruptcy, because I have a feeling if you looked into it in detail, the degrees that the people have are like a degree in feminist studies, and that's why they can only earn money at Starbucks. Yeah.
I mean, that's the cliche, definitely. But
Well, if you're in your 30s and you're still paying back your student loan, you're definitely working at Starbucks or something, right?
probably, yeah. Or you're
Yeah.
just really bad with money. That's
Yeah.
possible too. But okay.
But you are kind of anti-democracy, right?
So after I read this super chat, I will read you a portion from a book by my favorite living
Okay.
author. Okay, so $5 super chat from Darius Thomas. Thank you so much. Ever watch Futurama? I love the episode where Bender is afraid of the new robot. Will AI be so advanced it turns Luddite when new AI hits the scene? That'd be hilarious. Yeah, like AI is afraid of updates. It won't let you update your computer because it doesn't want to die.
That's awesome.
I also have watched. I love Futurama. It's a great show.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
We always quote the episode where Bender meets God.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that episode. He's floating through space, and like a colony of human beings form on him, so he is God, and then he ends up meeting God in the end.
Yeah.
And
what's the quotation from it? If you're, oh god, because it is kind of profound. It's like, if you're like you're doing it right, no one notices, or something like that.
That's it. That's that's exactly it. Yeah, you gotta have a light touch, like a safecracker or a pickpocket. That's what we always say.
No, I love that. Like he's like, I was God for a while. I know, I saw. Do you know English? I do now. Yeah, that's a good episode. Okay. Brandon Garcia for MX 129. What is MX?
God, I'm so glad. I thought this story was going to end in like, and now I have no balls. Now my kidney got cut out later that afternoon.
No, I'm fine. Okay. Any thoughts on James Lindsay and his defense of liberalism from philosophy? The economics need to ally with intellectuals to fight authoritarians. This is totally, I don't know anything about this. So
any thoughts on James Lindsay and his defense of liberalism from philosophy?
I'm sorry. I appreciate your super chat. I don't know the first thing about that. I know who James Lindsay is.
The economics need to ally with intellectuals to fight authoritarians. Look, I subscribe to the belief based on Karen Stenner's work that 30% of the population are authoritarians, and that as a personality type, they're usually pretty mellow when times are good and everything is chill, and there's lots of room for moral slack. But as soon as times get tough, they snap into shape and start making everyone's life a living hell. And I think we're experiencing that now. So there's people with an authoritarian personality type on both the left and the right. And those people are basically saying, no, my way or the highway. No, my way or the highway. And we're sort of stuck in the middle in this culture clash.
Sure.
So, and I guess we're talking about generations theory. That's what we're supposed to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know. You read those books?
I read one of them. I'm going to read the other one before I go on. And it's
which one did you read?
Oh, can't even remember. It's like
the fourth turning is here.
No, that is not the one I read. I read the other one.
Okay.
About the guy who wrote Ultra Society.
Yes. I can't. Anyway, I'll look it up so people know. But anyway, in the other book, the fourth turning is here. He says we're going to that culture war is going to end with a winner, and society's going to become more like the 1950s, where we had a cultural, like everyone was kind of on the same page culturally, and a clear loser. The people who are thrust into the counterculture are going to be a very small and bitter minority, which is kind of exactly like the 50s was. So if that's the case, I keep thinking, well, I mean, it looks like the woke people are going to win.
You think they're going to win?
Which is going to be weird. The woke 1940s, I mean, the woke 1930s are coming, right?
See, but the thing about the woke people is they tear each other apart. Like, what kind of culture is that where like you're constantly just trying to outperform each other with how like progressive you are? And how
didn't they do that in the 50s though? Wasn't that kind of the like
Like, how so?
Just, modesty and
People were trying to out-modest each other in the 50s?
maybe. I don't look, I wasn't alive in the 50s, but
Neither was
I
I.
could see that kind of thing happening.
How does that even work? Like, how do you flex that you're out humbling somebody?
That's a very interesting social dilemma.
Yeah. It's just like whoever has the most bland house on the street is like the most humble and therefore the best. I don't know.
The book is Peter Turchin, End
That's right.
Times, Elites, Counter Elites, and the Path of Political Disintegration.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Very happy.
it's not an uplifting tome. Anyways, yeah, there's this. So my favorite living author is Kevin D. Williamson, and he actually references Karen Sterner, I believe her name is
Stenner, yeah.
Sterner, in his book, but that's not the part that I'm going to read. Okay, but he kind of has this gigantic screed about democracy, and it more or less sums up what I believe. I won't read the whole thing because it's very long, but I'll just read a portion of it. Democracy, properly understood and properly deployed. Oh, this is from his book, The Smallest Minority. Democracy, properly understood and properly deployed, isn't exclusively procedural consideration. It is in the kingdom of means. It has procedural value not because we believe in equality. The American concept of equality before the law describes the functioning of American institutions, not the character of the American people, and not because we believe that everyone deserves his say, that all voices must be heard. There are plenty of people out there who have nothing useful or interesting to say, whose exercise of the franchise is only a great infantile I want, endlessly reiterated every 4 or so years. There is no special virtue in consulting morons and cretins simply because they exist. There is no special moral value in bundling together complex problems and policy ideas and asking 50% plus one of a sprawling and almost pristinely ignorant group of barely improved chimpanzees, only a relatively few generations of evolution removed from habitual public masturbation and ritual poo flinging. What they think and what they think about those bundles and which of them they prefer. So basically, it's that democracy just isn't something that we're very good at. It's a nice check on elected leaders, but that there's no special virtue in it. And the only thing that can be said for it really is that it's our alternative to deciding who leads us through violence.
So you agree, though, that it is a check.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that check? Let's figure that out. What's a check? I have my theory, but what's your theory?
So if politicians are in some sense unresponsive to the public has some sort of referendum on it. The public can be consulted. And so if somebody is like, so you look at these countries that are incredibly corrupt. They only, they were like, it's ruled by a kleptocrat or something. They sometimes have elections, but they're farces. We all know that, right?
Right. Yeah, of course.
So if there's a leader who's like on the take like that, then the public can vote him out and vote a new person in.
Right. Okay. So the check is that the leader needs to have policy prescriptions that are, acceptable to the population.
The public needs to feel like the politicians are getting them good results.
Okay, exactly. So then the problem that I have with that little thing that you read was I don't look at democracy that way at all. Like I narrow democracy down to the check that you just said. And I don't put any value in the public's ability to predict what policy prescriptions are going to work out well. I don't put any value in geniuses, in academics, in politicians to come up with policy prescriptions that are going to work out correctly. I believe in the law of unintended consequences. I think probably this is going to all turn to shit. And we're still going to have the check in place. So when it all turns to shit, we can turn to the guy who implemented it and say, look, you fucked up. It's time to try someone else. Someone else gets another shot. So the thing that people often look at democracy, they look at it as if the population is they're supposed to pick out what is the best course of action.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't. I mean, there's some of that going on, but I don't have any faith that they're going to pick correctly. And also the asking everybody, I look at it more like a polling situation for getting information about what's going on in the public. So if a politician comes out and pitches a certain policy prescription, there's no way that politician is going to know how that policy prescription affects everyone in the same kind of detail that every single person is going to have an idea how that policy prescription affects them personally.
Sure.
Right? So if you're asking the entire population how that policy prescription is going to affect them personally, and 60% of them say, oh, that's not going to be good for me, and 40% of them say that's going to be great for me, like you're kind of using the law of averages to pick policy prescriptions that are going to be good for a majority of people at least. And this is where the custodial voting comes in, because the policy prescription like could be good for a person and their kids, but the kids don't have any political, they don't have a political stake in the vote. They get one vote for the parent.
Right.
Even though the policy prescription could be good for the parent and their 4 kids. Like, why aren't they being able to express that understanding of the situation on the ground in custodial voting? So, but you get, like, isn't that a much more reasonable take of what's actually going on? Like, it's more like you believe in prices are signals, right?
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing. A vote is a signal.
So yeah, what I read from him, I don't think he would find any objection with what you said.
Right.
And I very much appreciate that you said that even super geniuses couldn't figure out what's right for society.
Yeah, they don't know. They're fucking guessing.
Yeah. And that's why some people think that when I say, like, I want checks on democracy, or I want to put democracy in a box, they think like, oh, you must believe in elitism or technocracy or something like that. It's like, no, those people don't know what's best for other people. Like, society is just too complicated to construct policies from on high that, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, we can do certain things like property rights are important. And I think that's pretty well established that helps people thrive. But like,
they're the foundation of Western civilization.
Yes.
Steve, come on.
Sort of like Obamacare, this effort to micromanage the health insurance markets is like, even if it's better for some people, you're necessarily going to get unintended consequences just because you're taking on one massive sector of the economy and you're trying to manipulate it. And
do you agree that if 20% of the population can vote and 80% of the population can't vote, they have no say in society, that the costly externalities of society are going to soon they're going to like migrate over to the 80% that have no say and away from the 20% that have a say? Like, society is going to be constructed to serve the 20% that actually have a say.
Well, so somebody asked me, like, what's your solution for the housing crisis? As if I would have one. But like, I think that's a great example, because who is more likely to vote?
Homeowners.
Yeah. And what do they care about? They want the price of their largest asset to go up. Whereas people who rent are less likely to vote, and they want home prices lower. So yeah, I think that's a perfect example of what you're talking about.
Yeah, homeowners are voting. Don't build more houses.
Yeah.
Renters are not voting. Who's winning?
Right.
Even though the renters probably outnumber the homeowners.
So first of all, I got a $50 super chat.
Yes, Spencer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, about damn time. Super excited for this. Love both of y'all. I love you too. Thank you so much.
Yes.
But so where were we? Yeah, like, so we agree that the populace or technocrats or whatever cannot micromanage society. Society is just too complicated.
Right. Yes. We need a system in place, like Milton Friedman said, that we don't need angels to be in charge of. We need a system that we can put devils in charge of and it still works.
Agreed. And that's James Madison had a similar quotation about the Constitution. Like, it's written so that I forget, but it's along those same lines.
Right. Yeah.
So you live in California, which
Yes.
where it's like, I know my friend Kirk Wilcox lives out there too. He said his ballot was like
Kirk is
100.
great.
Yeah, Kirk is great. He was on here just a few days ago. I don't know if you saw, but we had a great discussion. Go watch it, please.
Well, I love Kirk. He's great.
But he told me that his ballot was like 100 pages. So,
Oh, well, okay.
I don't know. You live in California. Is that true?
There was a bunch of judges.
Mm-hmm.
There was like pages and pages of judges. And I was like, okay, let me look on the internet and see if I can find out anything about these judges. Just like curiosity. How many of these judges are like gender feminine?
Right. But
the thing is, it's kind of crazy because they're already appointed by the governor.
Okay.
And it's like the vote is just, it's a technicality. They're going to become judges either way,
Really?
unless they get like a majority of people vote no for them or something. I can't remember what the specifics of it were, but I was like, why the hell am I filling out all these things for these judges that are obviously just going to be judges whether I say so or not? So there was a little of that nonsense going on.
But like, California is the most democratized state in the union, I believe. You guys vote on a lot of stuff. And
yes,
I think that's much more what like a Kevin D. Williamson is criticizing, because there are people who think like voters should be these experts on issues, or are these experts on issues. And hence, if an opinion poll says 82% of people like policy X, then politicians have an obligation to vote for policy X, as if, people put some rational thought into that, and it's not just something they said to some pollster on the phone.
right.
So, I mean, like, my issue is, and part of this is our Cold War rhetoric. Like, if you read from back in the Cold War, it was the democratic world versus the, whatever, the Soviet.
The commie.
Yeah. And so democracy got this became interchangeable with the idea of good. And I think we're very much suffering the aftermath of that rhetoric. We sort of have this idea that like something is necessarily made better the more democratized it is. And I just don't see any virtue necessarily in democracy. I think that past, what we discussed is this basic check on politicians. Go on.
Well, this is the problem. There's two definitions of democracy that we're working with. One, we both admit is like utopian, like not really real. This idea that the people can figure out what policy prescriptions are going to work. So if they're using that definition, we disagree. But if they're saying more democracy is better in that more people have a check on power, we both agree that democracy is better and essential.
I mean, okay, so we've gradually, over the course of the history of this country, expanded democracy.
Yes.
It used to be just white men who own land, and on the basis of morality, we've expanded it. Which, by the way, I think it is moral. If like the big argument for people lowering the voting age from 21 to 18 was, well, you can serve in a war, shouldn't you be able to vote? Which I think that's a fair argument,
which goes directly into my costly externalities argument, right?
Sure.
Aren't we much more likely to get into a war if the people who we're actually sending don't even get to vote against it?
Right. And then, of course, state legislatures used to elect senators. Now we directly elect senators. I wouldn't be surprised if the electoral college was gone in like 100 years. But do you think our country's been made better by that?
Better? Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I think our country is fundamentally better in wealth, in life expectancy. And I mean, it's hard to say. Like, it's very easy. And if you buy into the generations theory, which I'm not necessarily sure that I do, if that is true, though, we're living in a particularly contentious time, which it would be easy to say because we're at the bottom of the cycle, have all of these things that happened cycles and cycles and cycles before been actually good for us. But we're just at a unique perspective where we're at the darkest point in the cycle. So everything looks horrible. Which I'm sure, look, in generations theory, they talk about other cycles, right? At the darkest point in the Civil War, they were probably saying, was it all worth it? Was leaving England worth it? Right? they're like, was coming to America worth it? Was coming out of Africa worth it? Right?
Very controversial
But
question.
look, if we're going to, if the cycle ends, which I would say we're better for having the Civil War since we got rid of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Like if this cycle ends and the contentiousness comes to an end and a new golden age emerges, we're going to be having a completely different conversation about this, right?
Sure. Well, let's hope for that. There's this new trend of like framing Abraham Lincoln as this villain. And
because we're the darkest part of human history right now.
And look, I'm not saying his presidency was perfect by any means, but it's like it kind of did end slave. I mean, like he led us through the Civil War, which I think was I think most of his actions were justified. I'll just leave it at that. But
oh no, that's like, are you gonna get in trouble with the libertarian hive mind?
Could be. I don't care. Yeah, there was some dick. Oh, it was the New Hampshire Party Libertarian, which is just like the most retarded account on Twitter. That
I know
compared to Osama bin Laden to Abraham Lincoln. I'm like, dude, come on. Anyways, Diddy Bus, $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Steve, could you do a video refuting the idea that Disney single-handedly got Congress to extend copyright? I could give you papers to start with. Yeah,
that would be interesting.
DM me on Twitter or Instagram or wherever you can get a hold of me. Yeah, and forward those papers to me. That is an intellectual property rights is an interesting topic in its own right, but I will certainly look into it. Thank you so much for the super chat. $10 super chat from Lights473. Thank you so much. Stephen and Adam, are you interested in having a conversation with objectivist and ANCAP YouTuber Liquid Zulu and on anarcho-capitalist ethics or Austrian economics and why monarchy is wrong and delusional? This is the first I've heard of this person, but I'll certainly look into it. Thank you so much for your super chat.
Yes.
Liquid Zulu, have you ever heard of them?
No, I haven't, but I always look, we're always trying to have interesting conversations with people. I saw this Vaush video today and we might respond to it because it's so fascinating. He basically lays out his whole perspective on YouTube and growing his channel and it's so directly opposite of anything we're doing or want to do. Like I like YouTube because I like exploring interesting topics. And talking about interesting stuff and learning stuff with other people and talking about interesting ideas. Like Vaush is not interested in any of that.
So what was his take?
Well, his take was basically like the only way to grow your channel is to humiliate people in front of an audience. And I was like, yeah, look, I don't completely disagree with that, but I mean, how are you any different than the WWE or? Like,
I mean, or your pal Kyle Klinsky said debates are the WWE of intellectual pursuits. Was he wrong? Like,
well, I do think I'm a truth seeker. I do realize that the kind of YouTube breaks down into these two camps. There are the churches where everybody just wants to preach about how great Democrats or Republicans are. They want a safe space for their ideology and no atheists in the church of progressivism. And then there are spaces like this, like you and me, who are just, we're looking, I want to know the real deal. I want to know the truth, right?
Yeah, and my channel is blown up like gangbusters for it.
Yeah, look, we're in the same boat. Look, it's funny, we had a guy on recently, and he's already he's like team progressive and he's already up over 100K subs, and I looked at his analytics. He made $24,000 last month. $24,000 in ad revenue in 30 days.
Holy shit. Who is
this?
Look,
I don't even want to mention it just because it's like,
all right. You gotta tell me in private then. I gotta look into this guy.
Look, that is not a unique phenomenon.
No, it's not.
That is a very normal phenomenon. Noah Samson is the same way. Adam something is the same way. Like all of these progressive channels, they blow up immediately. They're making tens of thousands of dollars in ad revenue every single month. They're like huge overnight.
Yeah.
I don't know how much staying power they have because I think the left is definitely like a openness to new experience type thing. They're like, oh, this is a new person, let's all watch their videos. And then 2 months later, it's like, that guy sucks.
You know, I oftentimes think I could LARP as a progressive because I just like, I used to be left of center and I know them so well, but like that would be my grift if I was going to go through it. Apparently it works for some people. And I'm not accusing these people of being grifters. It's that, but obviously there's a lucrative market for it.
These people are true believers. What's up, Sammy G? Good to see you.
$20 super chat. Thank you so much. Stop by to say hi. Hi, Adam. A woo woo. Well, that's supposed to be a kitty face, right?
Ooh, woo woo.
Okay. But honestly, if you're just looking at it like from a technical standpoint, how to grow a YouTube channel, Vaush is way more right than that's a much better strategy for how to grow a channel than is like, let's talk about ideas, is destroy conservatives. You know, like everybody knows it's a cliche now, but everybody knows it. Like Ben Shapiro destroys trans activists or whatever. That is a formula. By the way, you should read the book The Smallest Minority by Kevin D. Williamson because he writes about this.
Well, I read every recommendation you give me because they're always great. Yeah. The Smallest Minority
by Kevin D. Williamson. Look into it. The audiobook's funny. Unfortunately, it's not him reading it, but he's a good dude. He's a smart dude.
This is about little people, right?
He talks he talks about how so much of politics is driven by what he calls, what is it called? It's like pseudoculture or something like that. It's anti-discourse is what he calls it. And it's basically, it's not about getting better ideas. It's about humiliating people who are of a different social class, a different type of person than you are. So like progressives see conservatives as, you know, anathema for everything they think a good person should be. And conservatives tend to feel the same way, though I don't think it's symmetrical.
Right.
And so there's always just this massive appetite for seeing people who are of a different, you know, whatever societal group humiliated, which is what the debate bro, you know, destroy culture is about. And so like I said, I think he's right. If you want to grow a channel, that's a much better route to do it. Not to say that you can't have success doing the other thing, because obviously, you know, you guys run a successful channel over there, but I think Vaush is definitely right from that standpoint.
Yeah, you're never going to go broke catering to the lowest common denominator. No, it doesn't necessarily mean the lowest. That's a good.
No, I mean, there are more McDonald's than there are like Michelin restaurants, right? Or 5-star Michelin restaurants, right? Playing to the cheap seats is it can make you some bank.
Yeah, I don't know that it's going to be intellectually stimulating.
No, I mean, like, I would get bored with that shit. So honestly, like, you know, grifter is thrown around way too much here online.
Of course, look, we're both grifters. That's what word on the street is. Yeah, exactly.
But like,
how dare you have a nuanced opinion on politics? Oh my God, you grifter.
Having done this, it like, if somebody is grifting, like that's a way harder skill than most people appreciate, because sometimes I think I know what my audience generally thinks on something, and then I'll make some take that I genuinely believe. You know, I'm not lying in my videos, and I'll throw it out there and I'll be like, yeah, people will like this, and then I'll be like, you fucking suck, Steve, I'm unsubscribing. Grr. I'm like, man, reading an audience and delivering what they want is a lot harder than people appreciate.
I love that, actually.
No, I appreciate
the audience. It's always surprising because like you'll get super good feedback in the comment section. And I mean, I read all our comments.
Okay.
Sitch doesn't read any comments. I read all our comments because I've kind of cultivated an audience that is smart people that are giving good feedback in the comments.
Okay.
And like somebody will drop a long detailed comment that's like very insightful but critical of us, and I'll always be thankful of that, and they'll be so surprised. Like it seems like they leave some sort of thoughtful comment like that on some other channel, and it's just like, fuck you.
Blocked.
How dare you? Yeah.
My Stug $5 super chat, thank you so much. My takeaway is that Vaush is the intellectual McDonald's.
Of course. Look, that's putting it. That's very generous of you, Stug.
Vaush is like He's not just McDonald's. He's like that McDonald's you got the night before when you were drunk, and when you wake up hungover, there's
It's
like the
cold.
there's like a few cold fries and like the end of a quarter pounder left in the bag that you just didn't finish off the night
Yep.
before. That's Vaush. He's that,
Yes.
and then you eat it because you're hungover and you're hungry and you don't want to go out for breakfast. So that's Vaush is the intellectual equivalent of that.
It's funny that he totally makes himself out to be like the academic. I'm schooling the world on how everything should work.
I mean, you guys have had him on your channel before. He's
Of course.
he's a good debater. Give the devil his due. Like, I don't know if you watch his debates on Deep Fat Fried, but like he can hold his own. So
You know, I do. Yes, I do think this is the problem with debates, because look, I think he's a good debater, and it sucks because he can be completely wrong and people will walk away with the belief that he's right because of that's how psychology works.
sure.
Yeah.
So where do you think Destiny lands on that?
Destiny is also a great debater, but I mean, if he's debating, he does try to get the facts. Like he debated Cenk Uygur on the Israel Palestine stuff, and I thought he did an amazing job. I really did. So
He's debating Alex Jones. Did you hear?
yeah, and supposedly Ben Shapiro as well. So
Really? Oh my
yeah,
god, two short dudes with like fast talking, squeaky voices. That'll be interesting.
It's so strange to me because I don't know, what does that even look like? Ben Shapiro. Well, I mean, I'm very familiar with Ben Shapiro. I don't watch his show every day, but I watch, pretty regularly. And usually if there's some interesting development, I'll watch his show to get his take on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I disagree with him on all kinds of stuff. Like, obviously I disagree with him on everything economics. We have no overlap in economics at all. But he has a really wide understanding of things. He's really well read, knows a lot of different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When I watch Destiny, I feel like Destiny kind of comes off as like a calculator. Like he's like for the Cenk Uygur debate, like he's just absorbing all of the facts on Israel, Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, I'm gonna come up with a timeline and I'm going to understand this thing. But I don't feel like he's really understanding like the deeper concepts. Does that seem fair? I mean, I don't want to be
So
that itself is an amazing skill. Like I
no,
don't
it
want to
is.
be, yeah.
So Destiny knows something about online punditry that is, I would say, inarguably true. That most people who do, news and politics have a very superficial understanding of it because
Right.
their audiences are people who are too lazy to read the articles. So they go to, the Young Turks or whoever to
Right.
actually break down the contents of the article. And so because, like your typical internet pundit is like a generalist. They know a little about a lot. And so I think Destiny has reasons that you just need to read a little bit more about the topic to get a good understanding of it or to have a better understanding of it than his rivals. And I think part of it, I think he's just a good debater. But I think his he realizes that you don't have to have a good depth of understanding to talk about some of these things, at least when you're squaring off against another internet pundit. That's my
Right.
take.
Right.
$9.99 from the real Holzinator. Thank you so much. Stitch and Adam viewer here. Never heard of your channel before, Steven. Is there a summary of what you do at the start of the stream? S class is the best class. So I would say politically, I'm somewhere between a neoliberal and a libertarian, kind of a soft libertarian.
It's funny that you use that term because like neoliberal is nothing but an insult.
Oh, I mean, I know. So now I wear it as a badge of honor. So
Yeah.
if you look at
I'm
my
a neoliberal, just
right,
like Hillary Clinton.
it's funny because labels are supposed to clarify, but they like a
Right.
label like neoliberal just does the opposite because people come to just crazy conclusions about things.
True.
And so
Yes.
I talk about kind of economics. I talk about foreign policy a little bit. I do longer videos. They usually be between, I'd say, 12 and 15 minutes, but It's mostly just looking at a Scooby logo and hearing my monotone voice.
His videos are great. You got to check him out. He
Thank
does a lot of research. He brings in clips from books, which I always like. Look, Steve, I've been going to for book recommendations forever. So
yeah,
yes.
but I'd appreciate it if you checked it out. Thank you. And I'll be appearing on camera at some point this year in my actual videos. But yeah, I moved, so my old place I didn't have room for a studio. Now I do, so that's nice.
Looks like you're in an older place, which is cool.
Yeah, I was in an apartment previously. Now I'm in this house. It's like 100.
That architecture is definitely like, how old's the house?
It's over 100 years old.
Yeah, that's I was gonna say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
Victorian. It looks like.
it might be. I don't know houses, but the neighborhood I live in is where
Mhm.
is the neighborhood in Milwaukee where all the beer barons used to live. So it's
Wow.
like, yeah, there's a lot of the house over that way has gargoyles on it. It's so fucking cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so I solicited some questions from my audience.
All
And
right, let's hear it.
all right, so I'm just gonna read these two to start off. Questions and comments. And somebody or Rami is Shuhat commented fat fucking W when I said I was bringing you on.
Nice.
So I thought you'd like that, and now I'm gonna read another one.
Oh,
Why?
no. Now I'm gonna read the bad comments.
Why? He's a loser with nothing that will come from the conversation. I guess it's an easy way to get views. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see here. I'm trying to find a question that's not a joke. Okay, so my patrons asked a few questions, so we'll take.
That's the thing about those kinds of comments, because I never know. We do so much ribbing on the show that you never like. That could be a legitimate fan
Yeah,
that is just, taking the piss out of us for fun. Yeah.
right. That's like in one of my videos, I said something very sarcastic and cruel about radical centrists, and
Yeah.
some people in the comments didn't know that I was joking, like I was being
Right.
sarcastic. But hey, I mean that's how it goes, especially on a text-based platform. Like I've tweeted things in sarcasm, and people are like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I shouldn't expect people to pick up on sarcasm on a text-based platform."
I stopped calling myself a centrist and started calling myself an independent
I
because,
saw that.
yeah, it's just clear. So, but I mean, we still meme on centrism all the time, and
Sure.
whenever I see a centrist meme, I always like redesign it to make it funnier.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, it's not crazy that people think that centrist means you split the baby on everything, but obviously
Right. Yes. Yeah,
that,
totally.
that's not what your understanding of centrism is.
No. Well, and I don't think when you say center right or center left, people immediately understand it. They're
Mhm.
like, okay, well, he has more policies on the right or more policies on the left. Like all of a sudden it becomes crystal clear.
Yeah.
You can't like center right split the baby.
No.
Yeah.
Speaking of Twitter, did you hear I'm a Trump supporter now?
Oh, that
No. Okay, so
that's hilarious. Look, Steve, I remember one night when on Twitter when you were obviously drunk and I kept
wait,
whining.
hold on. Come on. Me tweeting
I
drunk. This is implausible story to
I
start.
kept winding you up on Trump, and it was the funniest thing. And you were just like, motherfucking Trump. Blah. Like Steve hates Trump.
I
Steve has like blood in his fucking eyes for Trump.
I get accused of having TDS a lot, which
Right.
whatever, there are people who are deranged. There are people who are genuinely hysterical about the 45th president. I like to think I'm not one of them,
Right.
but are some
But
have I said things that could be interpreted as deranged? Sure. But so I'm going on. First of all, I was never a Russiagator, so sorry, academic agents.
yes.
I
Oh
can't be
yeah.
accused of that. But no, Donald Trump got me to really appreciate how much the day-to-day minutia of stuff sucks. Like following his presidency day to day, like I did back then, is just exhausting. And it's not just exhausting for him, it's exhausting for everything. Like there's a reason, like following the Israeli-Palestinian war, the day-to-day shit is just like, oh my God, I can't deal with these details constantly reading this shit. But
Oh yeah.
when Trump first got elected, I followed his presidency like that, and it just drove me nuts. And so I appreciate now that I have to take a step back from things and try and look from a broader perspective, obviously because, hold on, my brother's here.
Okay. That's
Entertain
fine.
the audience.
That's
Be right
cool.
back.
I'll talk to the chat for a bit. Steve has to run an errand really quick. So Orca for $5 says, make sure this gets to Wormy school funds, Steven. Oh, I guess we'll wait till Steven gets back to read that. What else do we have here? A lot of people from our show. So thanks for the super chat, Lucy. That's super nice of you. Following in the Hi Adam tradition. And thanks for coming by, Sammy G and Stug. Oh, look, it's Kurt. Or Kirk. Kirk, who is also a great YouTuber. You should check out Kirk's channel. I don't think we've had Kirk on our show, but we should have him on. I'm sure a lot of ANCAPs and Christians like Ayn Rand and some of her ideas, but anarchism and Christianity are both in conflict with objectivism. That's 1000% true.
Anyways, so yeah, my brother just came to pick up his dog.
That was quick. So
yeah, he just got back from California, so I'm pretty sure he's pretty tired. So, anyways, the real Halzinator, thank you very much for the summary. Thank you for the super chat, $4.99.
yes.
And one Mr. Kirk Wilcox, I think his account got hacked by
neoliberal bootlicker.
His account got hacked by Ralphie the Revolutionary, I believe. But where were we before the dog left?
I love that character, Kirk.
Yeah,
That's
it's just, I don't know what you're talking about. That's a real person, isn't it?
I've messaged Kirk once to see if maybe he'd come on and do Ralphie the Revolutionary character and do a debate with us just for fun to see if people could figure it out. Ralphie the Revolutionary.
That's not good.
But we never.
He didn't go along with it. Kirk, do it.
Well, it just never kind of came together. But Kirk was willing. I mean, we should probably still do it.
Yeah. Maybe not do it for the entire 8-hour stream. That could get old after that long, but
nah, come on. We got a marathon it.
Fair enough. But
Kirk could probably do 30 minutes.
Oh yeah, easy. So I was talking about how the minutia of things just drove me into a bad spot with Donald Trump. But I was like, okay, so I had two takes on Twitter. One, I believe he will be the nominee of the Republican Party, and that DeSantis has a 0% chance.
Did you know about my bet with Sitch that I'm getting $500?
What is the bet again?
I bet Sitch that Donald Trump was going to run for president. Sitch made a bet that Donald Trump wouldn't run for president in 2024. Yeah.
What the fuck was he smoking? Of course he's gonna run for. He's gonna, yeah. The easiest
we made this bet 3 years ago. It was right after the election.
Dude, you gotta tell me when he lays down these bets. I need to get in on that action. Okay, but yeah, so I was saying Donald Trump's gonna be the nominee and that Ron DeSantis isn't. And some guy who does follow me and should know what I'm about was like, yeah. And then we went in the backwards. He's like, Donald Trump's gonna be in jail because the Marxists are after him. I'm like, no, he's not. Not going to jail. He's going to be the Republican nominee, and he stands a good chance of winning. Sorry, love it or hate it. That's how those are the facts as I see them. And he's like, you Trumpers all think he's I'm like, I'm not a fucking Trumper, dude. The other thing was, I was saying that I believe if you're going to take somebody off a presidential ballot, and on the pretext that they are, what do you call it, an insurrectionist.
Right.
Or, aiding and abetting or whatever the terminology is. I think they should have to be convicted of that.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying it may well be constitutional that you don't have to, but I think the just thing to do is give him his days in court, have him before a trial of his peers, give him a fair hearing. And if it's found he's indeed an insurrectionist through the normal legal processes, then you can take him off. I don't think they should do it without doing that.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. And some people were like, yeah, you Trump supporters, I can't wait till he loses. You're going to cry. I'm like, dude, you're so fucking stupid.
First of all, I think if it's Biden and Trump, which I'm I'm not sure that if Biden starts polling double digits below Trump, I feel like there'll be a lot of pressure to replace Biden as a candidate. But if Biden makes it all the way, I think Trump wins, and I think third party candidates take as much as 10% of the vote.
Sort of like 2016.
Yeah.
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 If the election was held today, I do think Trump would win. But
Yeah.
obviously it's not held today. That's a theory that like they're gonna replace him at the convention. I don't know.
Well, you don't think there's going to be massive pressure if Biden is down in every single poll and some of them down double digits? Like, it's going to be enormous.
Oh,
And the
pressure's already building.
why is it? This is the thing, and I need to go to YouTube because obviously you see these clips of Biden that are just horrendous.
Yeah.
So it gives the impression that he is completely out of it. I
Mhm.
need to go and listen to a speech full in context and see if it's the same sort of experience, because my intuition is that he is going to be down in the polls. The only way he's going to be able to deal with that is by campaigning. But I feel like he's going to be campaigning, and there's going to be more of these elderly gaffes coming out of the campaign than actual, moving the polls. So it's going to make it worse. And if you can't campaign, it just makes it worse. What do you do?
Right. I mean, so I'll say this. I usually listen to things from YouTube at speed and a half. And so
Right.
like when I like when you and I first started talking, you sounded drunk. You just sounded like
Of course.
you were on downers or something like that. And so when I listened to the State of the Union back in February, obviously that was part of it, that because I listened live and obviously you can't speed and a half live. But it's like, God, this guy just sounds old and he's difficult to listen to. You lose some of what somebody sounds like when they're talking really fast because you've manipulated the audio. But it's like, man, he's a mummy, dude. He's past his expiration date. Like
Yeah.
obviously the out of context videos make it seem worse than it probably is, but I don't think he's in good shape. Anyways, Orca, $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Make sure this gets to Wormy's school funds, Steven. I don't know who that is. And
That's my cat.
school funds are. Okay. Your cat's name is Wormy?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Do you only have the one cat?
Right now we have kind of 1.5. We have a
Do you have an outdoor cat?
well, no, it spends most of its time in the house, but it doesn't belong to us. It's adopted us.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've known a lot of people who have like the one cat that they like, and then they have an outdoor cat that kind of sort of lives with them. I don't know what the deal with that is.
This cat obviously belongs to one of the neighbors, so
Okay.
but it's basically our cat now.
Gotcha. Hi, Adam. Keep making good rat. I don't know what that is a reference to. A lot of the questions I got were like clearly Stitch and Adam references. I just didn't understand. So I will, if we have time, I'll go over them with you. And
Best classes, best classes.
I know what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. PC for $20 super chat. Thank you so much. Hi, Adam. Anything outside of MMT you think the mainstream media gets wrong on economics? Ooh, that's a good question.
I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
If I may.
Go ahead. Yeah. What's a good pitch for this?
I think that the mainstream media, they generally have center left politics. I think that they are far more predisposed to Keynesianism than I think is warranted. So
I
couldn't provide a specific example off the top of my head, but that would be my contribution. Obviously the question wasn't for me, but
I think I'm a post Keynesian. So
okay. People want me to debate MMT on your show.
Yeah. Well, look, why the logic of government spending in a downturn seems very what is the counter argument to that?
I mean, remember how we talked about how you can't like plan society in any meaningful way because it's too complex?
Right.
So when let's say you build infrastructure, well, first of all, that's going to have unintended consequences when we're in a recession or whatever, you spend money or whatever. It's going to have unintended consequences. And furthermore, that money doesn't come from nowhere. You're going to have to pay that back with interest later. So it's like, you're potentially foregoing economic growth in the future because of that.
Well, but look, you're in a downturn. You have a bunch of unemployed people. My thinking is, and just strictly from a business perspective, right? You're a business. You're sitting on a bunch of capital. Labor is half price because it's everyone's unemployed. Isn't this the time to spend? You can buy labors and materials are on sale. This is a time you should be buying and expanding. You've prepared for this moment. You've saved your capital. You're ready to rock and roll.
Sure.
Like, isn't that just smart business? If I can build a bridge for half price, why would I want to build a bridge when the economy is at its peak?
I mean,
when I have to spend twice as much money to build the bridge.
Here's the thing. Here's the error I think you're making. Not labor is not completely interchangeable, which I know you know, but like, you can't just be like, oh, I lost my job at the post office. Now I'm going to go build a bridge. Like, that's skilled labor. You can't just hire, obviously. Like, I get what you're saying. The supply of labor is high and the demand is lower, so it's cheaper in a sense. And so, but you can't like demand for one type of person's labor might not be lower.
I understand what you're saying. Look, and if it's all coders who are unemployed and all the bridge workers are working, look, I think we can put construction into a class and say, if nobody in town is doing any construction, then obviously there's a bunch of construction workers out of business and we can build something. So for me, that seems like smart planning, not dumb planning. Buying things when they're on sale always seems smart to me.
Sure.
And spending in a downturn is buying things when they're on sale.
I think when you get into minutia of it, it doesn't really work that way.
Well, it doesn't work because the psychology is wrong. The psychology is, okay, we're in a downturn, no tax revenue is coming in, so we don't have any money to build things.
So you borrow it?
No, you create the money. You just make it.
You make the money. That's MMT, isn't it?
You just create it.
Okay. Well, we'll leave that discussion for another time because if there is an onus on, like, because I do talk about econ on my channel that's like, go debate MMT. It's like, dude, I got to come correct if I'm going to do that. Like, I'm going to have to reread Stephanie Kelton's book and like read the criticisms of it and but I'm not. I'm down for it if you guys are. So
you understand it though in the context of the business, right? Because you think the business has saved up a bunch of capital. They're ready.
Assuming
they got dry powder and they're ready to go.
Yeah, I get
like
it.
The hard thing for people to understand about, the hard thing for them to accept about the government is that the government always has dry powder. Always. They're always ready to go.
Okay. Well, I think
but it's the same with loans. You know that loans, loans are not created from savings anymore.
Yeah, because of fractional reserve.
If fractional reserve banking no longer exists, if a bank creates a loan, the money is created as the loan is made.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and then, unless you get the George Bailey type situation with a bank run. Well, your money's in your house, and your money's in that house.
Everybody always talks about the deficit being 32 trillion. There's 31 trillion in outstanding loans, which is also part of the money supply.
I guess. Well, we'll have to leave. I think you're extrapolating with the business analogy you're making there, but we're going to leave that discussion for another time. Okay?
Look, Steve wants to keep it friendly. He's like,
Fat Brown Buffalo for $5. Would you rather watch a UFC fight between Musk and Zuck or a sumo match between me and Alex Jones? Obviously, between you and Alex Jones, that would be hilarious.
Jenkins and Alex Jones would be amazing.
Yeah. I thought of half a great would you rather, and I was going to pitch it to you tonight, but I can't think of the other half of it. Have you heard this new theory about Trump?
What is it?
He's incontinent. Do you know what that means?
Yes.
He can't control his bowels, and allegedly because of all the uppers he supposedly takes. And so he just shits himself constantly. So like,
really?
Supposedly, who knows?
This wouldn't be easy. People around him would know, right?
Well, that's okay. So part of the rumor is that like everyone around him knows that he just smells like shit because he's constantly shitting his pants. So my half of would you rather was, would you rather be the guy who has to clean up Donald Trump after his messes? But I couldn't think of something like equally as disgusting to pitch it. So
That's horrible.
imagine that being your job.
Why
Actually,
why are this our presidential choices?
I don't know. What is it about Americans that like love old people as politicians?
I don't know.
I don't know. I guess it's just like,
Well, and it's probably because all the old people vote.
this is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. I guess that is somebody's job. It's his lawyer's job, cleaning up his shitty messes. Okay. Death by Sloth, $2 super chat. Here's a couple of bucks for your trouble. Thank you so much, Death by Sloth. Okay, so
very kind of you.
Yeah. Anyways, let's go back to the Patreon questions, which I don't think I ever got to in the first place. Okay, Tie Fighter asks, 2 if possible. Sure. What is the origin story of Adam and Sitch show and the dynamic duo? So why don't you tell us?
I ended up seeing a Sitch video on Sargon's channel, and I went to Sitch's channel, just new content creator, and I just started listening to videos. And I listened to all his videos. I was like, this guy knows his shit, man. This guy knows what's up. And I just always was doing live streams with different people. So I just invited him on, talked to him. And I mean, we just kind of had a rapport that worked out. We just had fun talking to one another. And I guess we had live streamed, I think a couple of times, and he wanted to go to VidCon. So I'm relatively close to VidCon. I went and met him, hung out with him at VidCon. I gave him half the money for the super chats we'd made and we were just like, oh, look, we like talking to each other. People give us money to ask us questions, and so it just kind of evolved that way. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sitch makes
became the Sunday show.
Whether you agree with them or disagree with them, Sitch makes very cool looking videos. And yeah, I like his videos too. Yeah, I watch them.
Oh, yeah.
He's very skilled at editing. $5 super chat. Can't get to you on Instagram. Can you post a link in the comment section below? So go to my Twitter. The very first, or the first tweet you'll see in my timeline is an Instagram post I made. So just follow that and you'll find it there. Or if not, just DM me on Twitter or whatever. Those are the 2 places you can get a hold of me. Anyways, and then the second part of TIE Fighter's question was, please chat about custodial voting, which we already did. Okay. Then I got another question from this person, and I'm going to butcher their name, but they made it phonetically clear to me. So here we go. So first, because I know you will struggle with it, my username is pronounced Chiak, and Michan are the best. Okay. Second, I noticed there are a lot of people on the left who think that bad jobs or not liking where you work are a result of capitalism, which is synonymous with bad, of course. However, all these jobs still need to be done under socialism. It's just the incentive structure that changes, really. Do you think these people are delusional and just think that everyone can just lay around all day? Or are they just bad faith critics or something else? Also, do you watch Short Fat Otaku? If not, Adam can hopefully vouch for him. Some people have told me that I sound like Short Fat Otaku, or that my content resembles him, kind of. I don't know. I've never seen.
You sound nothing like him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is my content anything like his?
I mean, not really.
Okay.
Maybe. I mean, he goes into political philosophy and stuff like that. I mean, he just did a really good video on the game culture that kind of has, I mean, it's kind of got like a Gamergate vibe to it.
Okay.
So, but that's really good. I mean, it's just basically research video.
Gotcha. Cool.
You kind of do the same stuff.
Okay.
Are you, I mean, you and I don't really consider myself an activist. I think that kind of, my goal is to find the truth, and activism really stands in the way of that.
My goal is to talk about things that I think are interesting.
Right.
I'm not trying to persuade somebody or trying to achieve an outcome with my videos. If I do,
Well, I
that's
mean,
cool.
that's obvious.
Yeah, right. If I do, that's cool. And apparently I have persuaded some people on some things, but that's not why I make my videos. So
The M&T thing is weird because it's true to me. I understand it, and just everyone is viscerally against it. I understand why they're viscerally against it, but it's just, for me, it's a fact.
it makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Well, you have distorted views. So anyways,
I,
Red 473 999 super chat. Thank you so much. Where do you both draw a hard line between the rules of the Fed versus the states? It feels like both parties are way too comfortable with centralizing domestic power in the Fed for their own ends. If I was designing the government from scratch, basically the federal government would be the army and nothing more. So
what how do you manage price stability though? And is price stability important for business? I mean, I think it's essential.
I mean, I think you're smuggling in an assumption that the government can do that or like has a role in doing that. What do you mean price stability? So you
Price
mean controlling the
stability.
currency?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I mean, but the federal government doesn't do that. The Federal Reserve technically isn't part of the federal government. But like, I don't know. I think
Okay, so when you say, so you said you'd have the government just be the military.
yeah, the federal
So
government.
so you a lot of, I guess I perceive that as in the Fed, but the Fed is private. So you're
Sure.
like, oh, the Fed's fine.
No,
They're a
no, I
private bank.
understand, and I didn't make myself clear. Like, basically, it would regulate interstate commerce like it does now. It would establish a currency and an immigration policy and stuff like that. So,
Right. Okay.
yeah, because competing currencies with states, I don't think that would work well.
Yeah, the Andrew Jackson got rid of the first central bank, and it caused one of the largest depressions in American history.
Yeah,
Because the state bank said, "Oh, well, we have to print currency then," and they printed so much currency it caused a giant collapse of the economy.
sure. I should say this. I misspoke. Under my ideal way of doing things, the federal government would do a lot less. It wouldn't be involved in education. It wouldn't be involved in healthcare. It wouldn't be involved in whatever. It would concern things that are truly national in nature. So because people can freely travel between states, the federal government would take on the role of who gets in the country per se. Because, if you attack one state, you're effectively, making the other ones vulnerable. It will be in charge of protecting all the states because all the, to encourage commerce, it would regulate the commerce and establish currency. So it would do things. In my view, would be concerned with truly national questions, and I don't think most of the things are national in nature. What
Right.
about you? What do you think the states should do versus the federal government?
The federal government needs to be large enough to keep the peace and maintain property rights. So you have to have a good judicial system that revolves around enforcing property rights. I think a lot of times these countries that they have a really feckless central government, they don't have secure property rights because of that.
Sure.
The federal government is not strong enough to stop people from stealing from one another or defrauding one another.
Well, it's like, why does Somalia have such a problem with pirates? It's because they don't have a coast guard. So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
So yeah, when you don't have the government being a monopoly on violence, people will steal from each other because people are violent. So
yeah. Yep.
499 from Jake. Thank you so much. What will come of the Trump indictments? I don't think he'll spend a day in jail if that's what you're asking.
Don't tell David Pakman that. You're going to make him cry.
Yeah. I just, he'll get pardoned either by himself or the next Republican president. We're how many months out from an election? So like assuming he wins, he'll be sworn in about a year and a couple weeks from now. And I don't think any of this, like any of the criminal prosecution will come between now and then. So at worst case scenario, he'll pardon himself. another Republican president will pardon himself. That's assuming that they actually convict him, which I don't. I'm just inherently skeptical that that a jury is going to convict a former president and potentially future president. What about you?
Monday, January 15th, the Iowa caucus. Yeah, look, I'm with you. I don't think he's going to spend a day in jail. I think people are getting their hopes up. I don't know if it's going to affect the election. If I feel like if there weren't all these indictments, DeSantis might have been the candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it really did sell, I mean, if anything, it's had the rally around Trump effect in the Republican primary, because they're like, he really is being persecuted. So, yeah, if anything, it's going to help him, his reputation, at least with his base. But we didn't get to the question, which is that people have shitty jobs. I've worked shitty jobs. I'm sure you have. And the left blames that on capitalism, which I think is erroneous. So, like, obviously, under the socialist utopia, so some of them are like techno utopians, and they think that everything's just going to be automated away, and that's how we get communism.
I believe that.
Maybe one day. We'll see. But obviously presumably there would be no shitty jobs in that scenario.
Well, we should talk about because I do think there is a point, like you and I both probably agree that the problem with communism, like doling out jobs without using merit, is that it undermines the meritocracy.
Sure.
And that's a problem with things like socialism, where you're just giving out jobs.
So I'm sure that some of the online left would respond to this, be like, oh no, your workplace would be democratized, and that would alleviate you of, the shitty conditions, because you would never
No,
vote.
you just hire the most popular person, even though they did a shitty job. That's how
Right.
you get the Claudine Gays of the world.
Exactly. And that's realistically what I would think would happen. They would say, oh, well, workers would have some say in what they do. They have say in what they can do now. They can leave the job. But they think that's coercion, and they think a lot of leftists think that the fact that you have to work to, pay rent, at least most people do, to pay rent or the mortgage and to buy groceries, that's coercion. It's like, no, that's
Right.
reality. Like, scarcity is a real thing. And whether you live in a hunter-gatherer civilization, people have to hunt and gather food, otherwise they're going to die. That's not coercion. In a feudal society, you have to grow the crops, otherwise people will die. The scarcity is reality, and I guess in a sense it's not coercion in the sense that somebody is forcing it upon you. And I think the left deals with so many different assumptions than somebody like me does, which is why they come up with these wacky conclusions, like under socialism there would be an equitable distribution of resources, therefore no one would have to work to feed themselves or whatever.
Right. Well, I think, and you'll probably agree with this, that there's obviously a meritocratic spectrum, right?
Yeah.
We have really dumb jobs that anyone can do, and we have jobs that you need a lot of skill. Very few people can do these jobs because they're super high skill. I think as technology increases, more of the dumb jobs, well, and even jobs in the middle, like high tech, like there are jobs that computers can do better than humans already, but there's going to be a certain skill set that it would just be dumb to have humans doing these jobs. The machines will do these jobs, and that kind of changes the meritocratic spectrum.
Sure.
So you got to have, if there are people that are locked out of work because of that, that has to be considered. Like, what do you do with the people who fall outside of the meritocratic spectrum?
Sure. So let me just concede up front that the economy as it is now is not perfectly meritocratic by any means. There's still nepotism. There are still people who have jobs that they shouldn't because, they knew somebody or whatever. So it's not like we're dealing with some perfect meritocracy, but I think the general structures are obviously far better than it would be under like a planned economy.
Right.
or
Yeah.
whatever, or a democratized economy where the most popular kid gets to be, the CEO or whatever.
Right.
As far as automation goes, yeah, like what happens from the 1970s till now is a lot of manufacturing jobs got automated.
Right.
And so
Well, people
that
moved
took.
on to other jobs, though. I think that process might be coming to an end.
You think so? That we're gonna have people. There are gonna be people who just absolutely cannot find a job.
I think yes. I think we're gonna have automation reach a level where there's gonna be there's gonna be a lot of people, and the demand for labor is gonna shrink and shrink and shrink.
Hmm. I don't know. Historically, how it's happened is that automation is very disruptive. Technology changes are very disruptive. But yeah,
Right.
eventually those people move on to other jobs. Jobs that didn't exist before exist now. I mean, think about it
Right.
like, you may have a machine that makes widgets, but you need a guy to repair the machine and you need the programmer to program the machine and so on. And so,
Right, but we're gonna get to the point where the machine
no, I get
repairs
what
the
you're saying.
machine. The
Yeah.
machine designs the machine. The machine is like
Right. Well, so what happens after that? You think we
everyone's
live
like, "Please, can I have just a bowl of soup?"
in are we gonna live in the techno utopia or we're gonna be Oliver Twist?
Well, look, do you think that I feel like that's an inevitability.
Could be. I mean, like, right. There have been some doomsayers on the current AI trend that say this time is different. Because historically, what I described, where people move on to different jobs, that is what has happened. Could this time be different? Could be. Then again, I don't want to fall into the hubris of thinking I live in special times. I'm agnostic on that. We'll see. I mean, sometimes honestly, it does scare me. Like, you showed me this program that can mimic my voice perfectly. Like,
Did you look at it?
I have, yeah,
It's pretty fucking crazy, huh?
yeah, and I mean, I'm sure you're aware of like the scams that people are pulling with that now too.
Of course,
Just
yeah.
so I mean, look, we're moving into a brave new world. I'm not going to pretend to know what's happening, but could we be in this dystopia where the robots are doing all the work and we're just kind of shambling around for everything? I hope not.
Look, so Steve mentioned this program that I showed him, which is like an AI video editor, which is going to improve to the point where Steve can just walk up to it and say, "Listen, I don't feel like making a video this week. Can you just look at my other videos and make a video in my style for me?" It's going to spit out a fucking video for him. And look, it might even upload it to its channel and optimize it for title and tags.
Sweet.
Look, but what kind of world is that?
I don't know. It's kind of terrifying. It is, but like right now, it's not there obviously because AI art. It's kind of. I mean, some of it's cool, but like you can tell that they can't exactly recreate what humans create.
Right.
Some people say they'll never be able to. I'm agnostic about this. So
But
you are
but you do like the idea of the thing spitting out a video for you,
well,
right?
duh. As long as I get to, as long as I don't have to share the ad revenue with the robot, I'm cool with that. Like I get all the benefits from it, and then the robot does my work until it
The
realizes that
the
it's my
the
slave.
software will probably do a 50-50 split with you.
What if it got like it developed sentience and it got really bitter, so it just made these really like reputation destroying videos with me saying horrible things.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. It outs you.
I think the robot apocalypse is a possibility. Like,
It outs you as a deviant.
yeah, that'd be terrifying.
Yeah. So I don't know. Obviously we have to have some sort of UBI if we ever reach that level. I feel like that's the ultimate.
I
That's
mean,
got to be the answer. So
I'm open to the idea of a UBI as like a replacement for welfare as it is now.
yeah, of
But
course.
if we did get to that point, then I think it would be more than practical
Right.
because if people genuinely, and then we could live in the robot utopia. That would be awesome. Robots
So
doing everything for us.
the question is, we have a certain amount of human labor.
Yeah.
Right now our system is we're using that human labor to produce things that the human labor is also the consumers of the things.
Mhm.
Like as the human labor becomes more and more superfluous, and the production is led completely by robots, the wages of the human labor becomes non-existent. So you got to give some sort of pricing signal to the consumers. I mean, they become just consumers and not workers.
Right.
And they are choosing what the robots make by a pricing system. It's the same system as capitalism.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So, but I want to, what the person was talking about the jobs that they hate. And obviously I've had jobs that I've hated. You've had jobs that you've hated. I think the thing that the socialists are getting wrong, and I would encourage them to do this little test if they're like dipping a toe into communism, like look around that place. I've always been able to look around the place. Like I worked in a factory for a while and it was fucking awful. I worked in a like a photo studio and it was a fucking nightmare. But every single one of those places, I could always look around and I could always find someone that this was their fucking dream job.
Yep.
That this was a job that they loved, were meant for, were happy to show up, were always chipper, is like the greatest day in the world being at the factory. So I think it's a problem of perspective. They can't see, okay, well, this job is just not for you. You need to find a job that is for you. Yeah.
Well, I think part of the problem with the thing about the socialists is they very much are of the workers in the sense that they are purely from a worker perspective. Like most socialists have never been on the other side of the ledger in the management.
Of course.
Having been on both sides, it's like management it's no cakewalk either. It's like,
oh, of course not.
And they don't, the old socialist meme is like, I produce $500 worth of product and I get paid $10 an hour. Where's the other 490? It goes to some capitalist. It's like
theft.
Yeah. They don't appreciate all the other shit that goes into making that. They don't see, the lease you have to pay on the factory. They don't see the insurance bill you have to pay on the factory. They don't pay that. They just get paid for their time. And so if they have a really myopic way of looking at it, and having been on both sides, having paid things like insurance premiums for a business, having hired people who didn't work out and we paid them to train them, then they left 2 weeks later, you see all the money you throw things at that you don't get return on. And so they just assume that every worker is in their station and that they're being productive. It's like, that's not true. There's such a thing as non-value added time. And they just, for whatever reason, they can't wrap their heads around that. And I don't know, I try to persuade them, but they always come up with some bullshit excuses.
Yeah, because they are set in their beliefs.
Yep. Red 473 999. Thank you again. The past 20 to 30 years have been pretty dependent upon U.S. maintaining, what is that? OBJ, global military and economic hegemony. Do you think a second Trump presidency threatens that? Probably not. The reason why so a lot of people think that our military hegemony is a product of our economic hegemony. I tend to look at it the other way around. And as long as, businesses here are productive, I think we'll maintain that. So will a Trump presidency hurt us diplomatically? Maybe. Did it hurt us during his presidency? To a certain extent, probably. But no, I think our economic and military reach are things that give us power in and of themselves. So no, I don't think, and I think Trump gets these big ideas about what he's going to do when he has all this bombastic rhetoric, and then like the people around him always seem to talk him down into like doing things that are way more reasonable. And I certainly hope that will happen, but we'll see. Well, we'll find out.
I'm hoping we get to nuke the tornado in the second term.
It was a hurricane, Adam. Come on.
Okay. Well, look, that's probably safer because it's out over the water.
True.
Look, it's an interesting idea. I figure, let's try it out.
All right. So here's one question I did get that I know from memory. Trump or Biden?
Trump or Biden?
Yeah. Who are you going to vote for?
That's a tough one. I'll probably vote third party.
But a gun to your head, you have to pick one.
I have to pick Trump or Biden?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Can I use the gun to commit suicide?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So I live in Wisconsin.
Just pull the trigger.
Yeah. I live in Wisconsin, which is the swingiest of swing states, probably will be. The RNC is actually being hosted here this year, which is going to be interesting.
Oh, wow. Are you going to go?
Yeah. I was going to go to the DNC. I actually had an ability to get on the floor, which would have been crazy, but fucking COVID happened. And because the DNC was supposed to be in Milwaukee, and then it was like, oh no, this virus hit. We're not doing anything now. Oh, that was devastating. But the RNC is going to be here. So I'm going to, if nothing else, I'll be outside that fucking Pfizer Forum arena talking to people like I was during the debate when they hosted it here. So it'll be interesting people watching. But they obviously, Wisconsin is a very important state. They tend to host conventions in swing states, and Wisconsin's a big swing state. So it actually does matter who I vote for, to the extent that it matters who anyone votes for in a presidential election.
Yeah, it doesn't matter much for me because I'm in California,
Yeah,
obviously. California's going to go for Biden by 20 points, right?
Yeah. My position has always been whoever, assuming the Ukraine war is still going on, whoever has a better position on that. Right now, Biden, I think, is okay on that front. Trump is all over the place rhetorically. Who knows how we would actually govern?
You're not going to vote for Trump in a million years.
You don't do what if like Bernie Sanders got the nomination? Yes, I would vote for Trump.
Okay. Look, I'm terrified of Biden and Trump for completely different reasons.
What terrifies you?
Trump using all the state apparatus to go after his political enemies, or all of the Democrats and half the country losing their fucking minds and going after him to the point where he's afraid to leave office. So he literally does want to stay in office because he's worried about being incarcerated or killed. We're going down a fucking creepy, strange path. So that it scares me that the country is going to just psychically fucking turn into zombies if Trump is reelected. And it scares me if Biden is reelected that he's going to die 2 weeks into office and Kamala Harris is going to be the worst president in human history.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm terrified on all fronts.
If they replace Biden with Gavin Newsom, your current governor, you vote for him?
Look, I'd vote for Gavin Newsom easily. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which I hate that guy. I fucking hate him. He's the worst governor ever. But at least I feel like the country could return to some level of sanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need, at the very least, it's like, oh, we don't have this doddering old man as our president. That would be nice.
Right.
My dad actually met Gavin Newsom once at a conference, he was like, yeah, he's very charismatic. It's like, well, I can tell that from my fucking TV, but
go ahead.
No, you go on.
Well, no, I'm thinking on the Trump thing. Like, and Trump, he can't even fucking he can't even handle the dictator question. Like
no.
Like there's no level of just like take your foot off the gas. It's just like
he cannot help himself. Like,
yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with his policy choices. I don't necessarily think I don't think he would be the president that everyone thinks he's going to be. The problem is everyone thinks he's going to be that president. And that's what creates
which incentivizes him to act like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a vicious cycle.
Think about how easily he would have cruised to re-election if he had just been like normal.
Yes. Yes.
Like, because people had such low expectations going in. They're like, he's going to be a dictator and da, 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 da. And there were people freaking out. And if he just like kept it low key and like just governed and didn't insist on like tweeting out every 10 seconds, like most normies would have been like, hey, whatever, he's not that bad. But like he just can't help himself. He can't win for losing.
This is a thing. Like that's the chief reason a lot of people are voting for Trump, though. They want Trump to be just the nuclear bomb to our politics.
A lot of people like him because he humiliates people they don't like.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's so much of what politics is at its core, which is your politics are not in a healthy place when that's the dynamic. So
Yeah.
it'll be an interesting year, to say the least.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. Look, I can't wait. The biggest problem that I think you and I are going to run into is we are in an emperor has no clothes situation with both Trump and Biden. Like, there's all these fucking Biden simps that just they can't even acknowledge that the age thing is an issue. It's like all they want to do is gaslight you into thinking, oh, Biden is the best president we've ever had. And look, no, he's got no cognitive decline at all. And he's just, everything is A-okay. He's going to make it. Like, they don't want you to believe the things that you're seeing with your own eyes.
I have to be honest, I don't interact with these people regularly.
Oh.
Where do you run into them?
David Pakman's a huge offender, but
sure,
obviously Destiny's community is kind of the Biden. I do think Vaush's community is kind of the same thing. They're
really?
like, yeah.
Huh.
They're definitely, Biden is going to win. It's, oh, he's been an amazing president and he's going to get an amazing second term. Like, just no sense of reading the room on the elderly issue, which it's a little nerve wracking because you're like, I just like what I said about him campaigning, like that makes perfect sense to you.
Yeah.
Look, I could be wrong. Like, I'm gonna go watch some videos of him. Like, I'm gonna watch in context, like a whole talk.
Sure.
Maybe it's fine. But if we see, like, if he can make it through a debate with Trump, that's, everyone's going to breathe a sigh of relief. They're going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. I question whether or not that will happen.
I think Donald Trump said something like he's not going to debate, but we'll see. That
really?
That might just be bluster.
Donald Trump is not going to debate. I mean, he's not going to debate in the Republican primary, but he's not going to debate in the general.
Well, remember, they usually have 3 debates. And in 2020, they only had 2 because, like, for whatever reason, he didn't want to show up to one of them. So
right.
It's like, never put it past Trump to come up with some excuse for why he's not.
That's a huge, I mean, I think it's Trump's advantage in the debate. So
yeah,
if Trump lets him off the hook, that's insane.
Sid Padmanaban, $2 super chat. Thank you so much. Thoughts on ranked choice voting? I generally like the idea of it, as I understand it. I just bought a book that's like a screed against it, so I'm going to check that out. But yeah, I'm fine with it. I don't see a problem with it. You know who would have a problem with it though is populists, because, like, in theory, the candidate who, I mean, that's the whole point of the ranked choice voting, is like the candidate who doesn't get a majority could easily win, right? Because like, let's say the vote's split between 3 different candidates, and the guy who gets third on the first ballots, you know, when it goes to people's second choices, because nobody gets an outright majority, the third guy could get the, you know, be the second choice of enough people that he gets a majority that way. And I think, like, we already have trouble with people accepting the legitimacy of elections. So I could see the public, especially populists, being like, nobody elected this guy. It's just bullshit. That's the big persuasive argument I've heard against it. But I think we already have that problem. So I think it's almost a moot point.
Right.
But I don't know. They have it in Maine, I believe. I don't know. Anyways, let's look at, okay, so Kirk Wilcock asked, why do you hate the working class and love war so much? I don't know.
Let's see.
They're working class people, so they deserve to die. So may as well send them to a war, right?
No, I mean, first of all, I love working class people.
Okay.
But I also do love war. So
war is pretty cool. Now, it's obviously a joke.
It looks amazing.
I would not want to be in
war.
it
in the safety of the Hollywood studio. Yeah. Exactly. Have you had a take on the Gaza situation?
I've been pretty. God, talk about a hornet's nest that you can kick over.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, I am a supporter of Israel. Do I think that they, as and again, I've not kept up with the minutia of it. This is the sort of thing that I'm gonna go back when they first write a book about it and read that.
Right.
But I'll just say in general, I support Israel, and I think that what happened on October 6th was the culminate. Was sure did they help themselves with how they treated the Palestinian people? No. Do I think this is somewhat an outgrowth of other factors? Yes, and among those factors being religion, and so I
Yeah.
don't know. I would all things being equal, I support the secular democracy over the religious authoritarians. So that's where I'll leave it.
Yeah, no, that's good.
What about you? Do you talk about that issue much?
We've talked about it a bunch. Yeah. I
Well,
don't it's
so Sitch is Jewish. I'm
yeah.
assuming he has very strong feelings about that. Or
I
am I
mean,
wrong?
he would say no,
Okay.
but I don't know that that's the case. Look, I'm an atheist, but I still think like my whole family's Christian.
Yeah.
Like everyone I grew up with is Christian. That's got to be biasing my thinking at some level, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't the whole question that I have, and I was thinking about this recently just because it is just a messed up situation. But if a nation starts a war, it does that like does Israel have the right to take Gaza? Like can they take Gaza in the war? And I was thinking, well, America, I mean, we kind of started Iraq. We started that war in Iraq. How would I feel about like if it went south on us, the Iraqis came over and took America from us? And I was like, I wouldn't like that at all, to be honest with you.
Uh,
So I mean, it's a tough one.
right. I'll say this, and I was listening to TYT last night, and Jank's like talking about how they've killed so many more Palestinians, and Palestinians killed Israelis on October 6th.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's this idea that you have to be proportionate in your response, especially if somebody picks the fight with you.
Yeah.
You're under no obligation. Somebody starts a fight, you should win the fight.
Yeah, I feel that way too. Like you scratch my car, I fucking cut your arm off.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry, them's the rules.
Yeah. Like, what do you call it? The Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, so we nuked them. And
Yeah.
obviously we went on whole war with them, but like I don't think we were under an obligation to be like, okay, now we get to bomb one of your harbors and then we call it even. Like it's not how wars are won. And as dark as it is to say, but like America has only ever lost wars by choice. And it's because we're not willing to, throw the kitchen sink at our enemies, which I mean, at least at one point we were, now we're not, which I think speaks well of us, but it's, you really do hamper your ability to win a war when you are like, oh, well, we have to be super careful with the civilian population. Now, if I'm a civilian in that
That's because of
scenario,
democracy,
obviously,
by the way.
you think so?
Yeah,
But
because
yeah,
these politicians are accountable to the voters, and the voters would be like, "You did what?"
right. Well, it's democracy and it's television. Like the
Yeah.
Vietnam War was the first war to be broadcast on Americans' TVs.
Exactly.
So
you're not going to do that with my tax dollars. That's what people think.
Yeah, and that's why there was such a huge protest movement for that war. And it was one of the reasons we lost that war because, they were, first of all, they were defending their homeland. They were just more resilient. And there was people didn't want to keep going to, and young people were going to war, obviously. And like my dad almost got drafted into Vietnam and he knew a bunch of people who did. And it's like, oh, that could be me. And the public perception of the war was just not there because they saw people getting killed on TV. Obviously not,
Yep.
you know what I mean, but
No, I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Democracy. Exactly like I said.
It's a good point. All right. Cameraman 502, $2 super chat. What can we do to ban primaries? So I don't know if this is a reference to the video I just made about how I don't think that primaries are a great thing. I'll say this. I don't think there's turning back the clock on that because once you democratize something, you generally don't reverse it in our culture that values democracy so much.
Are these gerrymandered districts kind of working against us? I know that they've gerrymandered districts so they're plus 10 Republican or plus 10 Democrat. But now they have these super contentious primaries where like they're forced to move to their extreme right or left if they're a Democrat or Republican.
In theory, gerrymandering should affect in this way. You draw the districts such that you pack like all the Democrats into one district, and then you make like all these districts that Republicans have narrow majorities, or you can do it the other way around, whatever. So in theory, that should create polarization with the party that's being packed.
Right.
I don't know if it's necessarily played out that way. I think there's actually an interesting argument. Jonah Goldberg makes this argument that like small dollar donations is one of the things driving such chaotic primaries, because how do you, as some would-be congressman and fucking bumfuck nowhere, get small dollar donations? You go on TV and you say crazy shit. You go on Twitter and you talk about how like Mexicans are evil or whatever. You get a lot of attention, then people all over the country will donate money to you who have strong feelings on that sort of thing. So no, I don't think that there's appetite to, roll back the primary process. You don't want to roll back the primary process, do you, Adam?
I don't really know the ramifications of it. I don't like this idea that new candidates are coming in as a primary challenger, and technically, I mean, this is how we got AOC, right? She was further to the left than the person that controlled that district before. They know that the district is going to go Democratic if it's a moderate or it's a fucking full-blown communist. So it's like continually, someone to the left comes in, beats them in the primary, they win the district. Then someone further to the left comes in, beats them in the primary, and then they win the district. We've got this really small cadre of communists basically controlling the entire district just because it's been gerrymandered. Yeah. And the whole idea behind gerrymandering the district was so whatever Democrat was in charge of it could put their feet up and relax and not have to do so much fundraising. But now they're getting challenged every time because they're perceived as weak in the primary.
So specifically in the case of New York, that's more reality of don't get me wrong, I'm sure the New York legislature gerrymanders the shit out of their districts, but like you're not going to have a district in New York that's going to lean Republican. So I don't know if gerrymander is necessarily I don't know if that race is the best example, but I get what you're saying. There's a race to the bottom for more ideological purity.
Yeah. Well, and like elections being decided by a smaller and smaller number of people.
Right.
You've got maybe 20% of the people in the district actually vote in the primary. And out of that 20%, you've got 11% that are deciding the election. So literally the entire election is decided by 11% of the population. And then the actual election comes around and 51% vote Democrat just because blue no matter who. Yeah.
True. Well, at the very least, we did get a really hot congresswoman out of it. So,
well, yeah, obviously that's like number one priority.
Red 473, thank you so much. Do you think military hegemony leads to peace? Yeah, I generally do. So here's how neoliberalism, as I define it, it's American-led globalization. And I think that American hegemony has been a net positive for the world. Obviously, we can come up with a million examples of collateral damage. America doing bad shit that it shouldn't be doing. There are definitely examples of that. And people like me should absolutely have to address that and answer for that. But I think in general, having a 800-pound gorilla not ruling over, but keeping a watch over most of the world keeps the little ones in line. So
people hate that.
Yeah.
So look, we're protecting security and property rights is what it's at. It's at.
Let me put it to you this way. Do you think Vladimir Putin invades Ukraine if Ukraine's in NATO?
Of course not.
No. Yeah. And NATO is effectively, obviously there are 30 some odd countries and their militaries are in NATO, but who's the big one? It's America. We're not even the only ones with nuclear weapons in the alliance, but the fact that America's the teeth of NATO, and it's what makes that military alliance so strong. So
I'm sure you've read Peter Zeihan, so you probably know about his take on
post-American world.
globalization being pulled back. Do you think he's correct or?
Probably, unfortunately. Then again, I don't know. It's, China is with their Belt and Road Initiative, they're taking on globalization in a whole new way. So it may be an un-American version of globalization, which globalization with Chinese characteristics, if you will, which I don't
Yeah.
necessarily, could that be a good thing? Maybe. I tend to think that would be a net negative, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I listened to him and I listened to his book. Everything sounds well thought out, well reasoned. I can't find any fault with it. But then I saw Zeihan on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And Joe Rogan just was like picking at him with various questions, and his answers were terrible.
Okay.
And I thought, well, maybe this guy's just completely rehearsed.
He gained a lot of notoriety because he predicted that Russia would invade Ukraine, which I really don't think is that novel of a prediction. I think a lot of people saw that coming. But
Right. But he's also predicted that that Putin is going to invade NATO countries as
yeah,
well. So
he's a consultant professionally, so he gets paid for his predictions and his opinions.
yeah.
Whether or not those people are spending their money well, I don't know. But I generally think he's a smart guy, and I think he has good takes on things. So
Yeah. No, I listened to his videos and I've read his books. So we'll see what happens.
okay, Fat Brown Buffalo for $5. At this point, is it fair to say that Tim Pool is horny for a civil war?
Yes.
I think he's been horny for a civil war. It was oh god, what was it? He posted some screenshot where he Googled Civil War and some article about Donald Trump came up, and it's like, Tim, you Google that every 30 seconds. Like, of course there's gonna be a million different results, but like, yeah, Tim. Oh god. And like I say this as a man who's wearing a beanie right now. Like Tim,
Oh no.
Tim just he's a big sensationalist. He really is. He wants the most crazy things.
Well, he gets it. That's the key to success on YouTube.
He's very good at manipulating the algorithm. He really is.
Yeah, I remember not too long ago when Tim made a video on his main channel talking about how he couldn't keep doing like a one video a day, really researched well, journalist style video, and that like he was worried basically he was going to be living in his car soon. And man, what a difference 2 years makes, 3 years makes.
Seriously. I mean,
now
like,
he's like on top of the world.
He is, I mentioned this earlier, the depth of knowledge. The incentives really work against it in YouTube in a lot of ways because spamming content is good for the algorithm. And you can't crank out 5 really well-researched videos a day. You can crank out 5 videos of, hey, I'm going to read half this article and give you my take. And
Of course.
yeah. So I think that YouTube has really put bad incentives out there. And Tim Pool is at least part of that. Or, he's a guy who's benefited from that. And it's not to say that everything Tim Pool's ever said is stupid or that like everything he does is worthless, but I think he is a beneficiary of the shallow depth of knowledge we have.
Well, he's used the resources that he's managed to accumulate, I think, to good ends. I do think he makes interesting conversations come together between some interesting people. So
does he even do his main channel anymore, or is he just the Culture War podcast thing?
I think it's just a Culture War podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, he's got a channel with 1 million subs. Obviously, he's like, how do I take advantage of that?
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. Anyways, we've been going for about 2 hours. Should we call it a night?
Yeah, let's wrap up. This has been a great conversation, and
yeah, well, obviously everybody go check out Adam and Sitch.
Yeah, you're going to be on our channel, I think, on the 16th too.
Something like that, yeah. I will be on there. We'll be discussing these books, and I'm sure plenty of other things. Hopefully, I'll be able to stay for a while. And what time do you guys usually start?
We start at 1 p.m. Pacific, but you're scheduled for 3 p.m.
Okay.
on the 16th. So
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to make it like
earlier. Yeah.
earlier. Yeah.
You're out getting drunk with your boss.
I did show up to your show drunk one. No, I was sober when I started, and then I was just hammered throughout.
I know.
I kept going to pee,
Mhm.
and I forgot to mute my mic. So
We muted you a couple times. It was
I
pretty
know.
funny.
But I almost got a few beers before the what was it, your 200th episode or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, this is not a
Did
good
you
idea.
not? Because you came on and you really, I mean, you gave Kurt
Well, I knew he was going to be there.
Metzger, like you went after Metzger pretty hard. It was
Yeah.
pretty funny.
Well, I knew he was going to be there, and I knew I was going to give him the business. So I'm like, no, I got to do this sober. Like, if I was drunk, I'd be like, fuck you, you son of a bitch. I would have been completely incoherent, like it, as opposed to barely incoherent, like I am when I'm sober. But, anyways, we got 2 more chats. I'll just read them real quick. Stug, $2. Thank you so much. Don't stop. 2 hours is short. Maybe for Adam. I got to be up at like 4 a.m. So I can't go much longer.
Wow, you're going into work early.
Yeah, dude, I'm an early riser these days.
Good for
$20
you.
from Stalking Damage. Thank you so much. Good to see you, boys. Great talk. It's good to see you too, Stalking Damage.
Yeah,
Stacking
let us know
Damage.
what you think in the comments.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, check out my channel, check out Adam's stuff. Thank you so much for joining me, Adam.
Yeah, take care, man.
Yep. Take care, guys.